All right, we are back once again. We are in the fourth folder now. I noticed in between that I can't spell bootstrap. We had bootstrap. So I think the first thing we'll do is probably change that. Let's just throw a T in here. I'm not sure if anybody caught it as we went. Maybe everybody was like, what an idiot. But that is definitely the first change that we're going to make. Following that, I think what we want to accomplish here is really moving to out of our landing page and into our our game board of how that's going to look. So again, I think kind of the thought process there is we've already built in the logic of hiding and showing this. So I think when I press R or P or S, I want this thing to go away. And then when I press it, it'll be, again, the game board here. So they won't kind of be on the screen at the same time. So what I want to do for that is, I kind of visualize just what that game board would look like. For me, I want to go back to Bootstrap just to get something going really quick. Bootstrap has these cool cards that I want to use. Let me go all the way down here. And they have like a card group. Lots of cards, lots of cards. Holy cards. There we go. So I want something like this, right? Where I'm going to have like a picture and I'm going to have some words and some other nonsense. So it looks like it gives me some stuff here. So I don't want all of this. Yeah, I don't want most of this, to be perfectly honest. So, I mean, you could copy this and maybe delete the stuff you don't want, but I think I'm just going to write my own stuff. So, or maybe what I'll do, no, yeah, I'm just gonna write my own. So let's go back. So let's just put some comments in here just so I know what's going on. So like this is the container for the whole page. And then underneath of this is the Jumbotron for the landing page. And then now what I'm gonna do, where's this div end? Right here. So now I'm gonna have another section that's gonna be like the game board view or something. Yeah. So in here, we saw, I need this thing, this card group. So I need a div called card group. So I'll say div, I'll give it a class equal to card group. And then in here, what I need is cards, right? So like I have, here's a card, here's a card, and then there's a card. So they have 3 different cards. So in the card group, I'm going to want div with class of card. And I think what I want there is some kind of pictures in my head. I want the left card, because this is going to go left to right. I'll just have a H4, call it whatever the heck you want. I'm going to say like user choice. And then underneath of it, just do another horizontal line. I'm going to have like an image. And for now, I'm going to use our default image. If I go to assets, images, I got this default one. So I'm going to give it a relative path, which will be real similar to what we've done with the other files. So I'll have an assets / images / default. And I'm just going to call this like default. I'll just call this rock, paper, scissors image. Doesn't matter what it says. And actually, I think that's all I want in this card. So I actually want, I want another one of these. Actually, I guess I want 2 more. So I want, we'll call this like card 1. Then let me just copy this again. Just so I have some organization here. So like when I'm coming back, I can actually see what the heck is going on. Oops, not that. What the hell am I doing? My keyboard doesn't want to work for me here for a minute. So we'll just clean this up a little bit, make sure we have some good formatting. I was trying to select multiple lines there, but for whatever reason, it wasn't working. Who knows? Maybe under all this pressure being recorded. So we have a card number 2. And I honestly think it'll be faster for me to type another one, but who knows? Let's just copy it again, Control C. Let's go back, start it from here. Is that right? Yeah, I think it's just this one. So that looks good, right? Yeah, okay. This will be card number 3. So card number 3 is actually the same as card number 1, except it'll be the computer choice. Card number 2, though, is going to be where it's going to have some other stuff. So instead of like a user choice, I want this to say current score. And yeah, let's just leave it at that. I don't need a picture, though, in this one. Let's get rid of this picture. So I should have 3 cards, user choice, computer choice, images. Yeah, that's a lot. So I definitely want to stop here. Let me go back. Like that's a lot of HTML to write, even though a lot of it I stole from Bootstrap or borrowed, whatever. That's a lot to write and not really test this out. So let's definitely pause there. I'm just checking my formatting. I think that looks okay. I think it's relatively well indented. So let's go back and refresh it. So, whoa, check that out. So some good, some bad, right? We didn't tell this to like hide yet. So a couple of little things like these aren't centered. That image is like ginormous. So let's at least get it like looking right. And then we'll worry about some of that JavaScript functionality of showing and hiding. I guess we could actually hide it already, right? So I can, it looks like by default, when I hide it, you know, my scoreboard's going to take up that space, which is exactly what we want. We really just need to worry about some of that styling and kind of toggling the scoreboard. So let's go back to our HTML. So I think the first thing I need to do is these images are like out of control. So we need to make them a little bit smaller. So it looks like, kind of like I mentioned before, you know, I didn't want to target every H1. I wanted to target the H1s under Jumbotron. It's the same thing. I don't know if I'll use images later, but I want to target the images under card. That kind of keeps me in a safe spot there. So this will be, you know, we'll put like adjusting, or no, not adjusting. We'll put like setting height for card images. So we have a class called card, and we want to target just the images underneath of that. And we're just going to give them a height. I don't know. I think 400 pixels is going to be fine. Let's take a look what that looks like. I mean, it might vary based on your screens, but I don't know. That's fine to me. Like, it looks okay. I can at least tell what the hell they are at this point. So that looks good. I think I need to center that text. So it looks like, where are we at? Index.html. I can just center everything, to be honest, and that should be fine. So we'll just center everything under card. So I can just tack that on to here. Just add a new class, .card. Keep that list growing. And if I go back, let's see what I do there. Jumbotron heading, oh, we're missing a comma. That would be important. So save that now. Cool. So I got recentered. That's centered there. It's not like vertically centered, but I don't really care that much. Hopefully this isn't, I don't know if you can see that video bar, but hopefully that's not in your way. But yeah, that looks good. I'm actually gonna move this up here. So that looks good. I think I feel pretty good about that. So by default, I don't actually want to see this, this whole thing here. Like when the page loads, all I want to actually see is this. So I think by default, what I want to do is I want to, where'd you go? I want to get this card group, and I want to hide all this. So we saw that before. We were using display block and display none. So let's go to the style sheet here. And now I'm going to target my card group. And I'm going to say display is none. Just put a comment in here. Something like, you know, will hide the card group when the page loads. So that looks good. If I go back and refresh, cool. Now I'm at where I want it to be. If I hit Q, or excuse me, R, it's gone. Everything's gone. If I hit Q, that's back. So it looks like we had some good success there. So I think the next part we really want to work on is then when I hit R, we already make this hide, but now we need to make the other things show. So let's do that. Let's go back to our JavaScript. That's where we'd want to do that. And I already know I'm going to need to target another element. So like in our JavaScript file, we made a variable here where we got that HTML element by its ID. So I'm going to need to do the same thing to get that game board. So let's go back to the index.html. And again, this is the thing that I want. So I'm just going to put an ID on here like we did before. And I'm going to call this like RPS card group. Again, you can call it whatever the heck you want. I'm going to copy it, go to the JavaScript file, and I'm just going to make another variable now. So I'm going to call this one RPS card group. I'm going to set that equal to document.get element by ID. And I'm going to target this element now. Too many quotes. Semicolon, cool. And I think I'm just going to console log it, right? Let's just make sure we're good. RPS card group. So that should be good. I'm going to delete this one at this point. Like, we don't need this. We got a lot of console logs going on. So let's just save all our thing. Make sure we just only get what we want here. So again, when this loads up, I should have a reference to this element. So I'm going to refresh it and go to my dev tools. Yeah, and that's what I want. There's my card group. So that works. That looks good. And that's got, my cards and all that happy stuff. Okay, so I think what I want to do at this point is when I press a key, I'm already hiding that thing. So what I need to do then is I need to show the other thing. So it's kind of the opposite of this, right? Like when I pressed RP or S, I set this to none. So then I need to set the card group to display block. And then I need to the opposite. If this is display block, then I need to set the card group to display none. So it should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to basically do the same code. RPS card group dot style dot display equals, and again, the opposite would be block, or the opposite of what we've done. And then again, that should be the same thing here. So we'll set the RPS card group dot style dot display. We'll set it back to none. So when I hit RP or S, it'll tell me. It will hide the Jumbotron. It'll display the card group. And when I press Q, it'll hide, or it'll show me the Jumbotron, and it'll hide the card group. So that makes sense. Let's take a look here. So let's save that. Let's go back. We refresh it. Cool. I'm going to press R. And whoa, what happened here? That's not right. That is not what we intended. So what's happening here? I'm pressing, when I load the page, I get this. It's hidden. I press R, and it is here. So, the one thing, Bootstrap, Bootstrap cards, a lot of Bootstrap is based on Flexbox. So I'm not sure if it's explicitly said here, but a lot of Bootstrap is based on Flexbox, and Flexbox brings to it, you've looked around this website, but Flexbox has a different display property, and that display property is you can set something to display flex. So if I change this to flex and hit save and go back to our app, I need to find a better spot for this bar. And we refresh it. I'm going to press R. So that's kind of like what I'm expecting. So I'm not going to really get into the weeds on this one with display flex, display block, display none, display whatever. There's a lot of different options there, but it's definitely something worth digging into and can be discussed at a later time, maybe another video series. But that kind of got us our solution, right? So this is like the behavior that I wanted. I actually really like this now. So I'm pressing R or P or S, and they'll all work. Let me open up the console to demonstrate this again, just so we're all on the same page. So I'm just going to refresh this. So when I hit the page, if I press R, it says you press the R key, and it's toggling. I'm going to press Q, and it's going back. R, Q. If I press P, Q, P, Q, S, Q, S, Q. So you get the idea. When I press one of the keys that we said are allowed, it will toggle those displays. If I press really anything else that isn't one of those, it's going to give me an error. And I think that's cool behavior. So I like that. I feel like this is good. I think we're in a really good position here. I think the only thing that we need here is we need to add a couple HTML elements. So let's give ourselves some placeholders here under current score. Let's just give ourselves like a wins. And I mean, I already know like we're going to be putting stuff in here. So I'm going to just do some legwork here. I'm going to give ourselves a span with an ID called win count. And in here, it's going to be really nothing. But I'm going to want to have something bolded. I'm just going to put the number 0 for now. So let's just copy this and do this 3 times. So I'm going to give myself a wins, something where I have wins, losses, and ties, right? Because I want to track how many times these things happen. So I'm going to have a win count, a loss count, and a tie count. And inside of that p tag is going to be a span with an ID, because this is what I'm going to target in my JavaScript. And I'm going to inject a number here. So that looks good. So let me save that. And just going back, like it's not going to do anything, but now I just have wins, losses, and ties. So I feel good about that. The other thing I want to do is I want to go to my JavaScript, and I feel like this is getting to be a relatively long file, and I kind of want to just demonstrate how we can do something else here. I mentioned earlier that this document on keyup can either take like a function that we just spell out right here, or it can take a function reference. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a function that we define. So I'm going to call it like a function game start. I'm still going to take an event. I'm going to give myself the curly brackets. And I'm going to actually put all of this code in here. All of this code. I'm going to cut it, paste it. And instead of document on keyup calling this function, now document on keyup is going to have a function reference, which is game start. So from a usability, there's actually no changes here. The game will still function the same, but there may be a time, we'll see how this application pans out, that I may actually want to call this function besides when I press a key. I don't know that right now. Actually, we'll see how the application pans out. But if we do, if we want to reuse this function, we want to keep our code dry where we're not repeating ourselves, it'd be cool to have this function available. If not, we're just demonstrating a different way to do the same thing. So our first implementation was we spelled out a function that gets fired every time we hit a key. The other alternative is we still can hit a key, but we tell it, hey, go fire this particular function, a named function. And that named function we called game start. You can call it whatever the heck you want. But we're giving it a name and we're just pointing to a reference. We're not actually calling the function, like we're not doing that, which would be typically how we would, a lot of times when we're referring to a function, we'll actually have to call it using parentheses. In this particular case, it's just a function reference, so that you won't use the parentheses there. It's a little oddity. It's probably a little bit of a gotcha that might jam you up down the road. But again, just kind of showing a different thing. So I want to just save this. Let's get rid of this console log. That's good. Clean up our code a little bit. Really, let's cut this because put this here. The game start function will be called every time a user presses a key. That's a little bit more descriptive to what's actually going on. And this logic is really the same. So I don't think I'm going to change anything here. Yeah, that looks good to me. So let's go back, refresh it. And again, really no changes. I'm pressing R, I'm pressing Q, R, Q, P, S, Q. You get the gist. The app still functions the same. I just think this is a little bit better way to kind of write the code in terms of where we're at this moment. So I think that's a good stopping point for this video. As we look forward to the 5th video, I think what we really want to start implementing at that point is really starting to dig into updating some of our scores, maybe doing a little bit more in terms of just some of the HTML stuff, and really starting to connect all the pieces here to getting this app actually to do something. So that'll kind of be the gist of the next video, and I will see you there.